right. I am excited to say we are finally into football season. This is the first of probably many Awesemo.com betting previews. Myself, Ben Raza, here with Julian Edlow. We've been waiting for this one. We are going to get into all the teams today, all those win totals, and plenty of other futures. Julian, how does it feel to have NFL back in our lives?
Feels different. Every
Does.
year when NFL comes back, it feels amazing. We're so ready for it. Baseball is such a grind that most people just kind of take a lot of the summer off and are so ramped up for this. And now it's in the middle of everything, particularly the NBA playoffs. I think for most of us is the big thing that it is just kind of dropping right in the middle of, which on top of it being a Corona season where futures have this whole different feel to them. The entire situation is just different. I think that's the only way to describe it, right?
It really is, and I know, like for me, I'm college football guy. I'm doing golf, which is big in the summer. Really, what happens preseason is my kind of alarm clock.
Mm-hmm.
Second, third week of preseason, I say, okay, it's time to flip that page. We don't have that. Like games are going to start and they are going to count. So it's just kind of you have to make sure you're digging in. And I know this is what we're here for on the betting side. There is so much out there, and the season is coming. So this is a great time to get in there. Obviously, what I want to say right off the top, if you have not checked out Odd Shopper, we're going to be referencing it throughout the show. It's a great tool where you can shop the odds, and in things like win totals, things like division odds, it makes a huge difference if you can steal some value. You need to get the best numbers. That's what we're going to try to do here. So we're going to start with the AFC. We're going to go division by division, see what's what, and see where we go. We'll start with the North. So we got the Ravens, we got the Steelers, the Browns, and the Bungles. I mean, I guess we should start with Baltimore, 14-2 last year. Lamar, we know they're going to be good. I guess I'll pass it to you right off the top. Do you look at this division as, is there anyone who can challenge the Ravens? Do you think the division is even open? How do you approach the North this year?
Yeah, so I can't give, the Browns had the hype train going for them
Every year.
originally, and that has come to a halt this year. Now, can they bounce back from 6-10? Sure, but do I think they're going to threaten the Ravens for the division? No, and we have the Browns at, if you want the over, there's some eights on the board. If you want the under, there's some 8.5s on the board. So I think the Browns, this is kind of like a settle-in year for them. Maybe they get a little bit better, but I think we clearly saw last year that they're not going to be the contenders in this division that we thought they were, especially when you factor in how much better Baltimore was than anticipated, which has, a lot to do with Lamar Jackson. The only reason you don't like Lamar Jackson this year is because his style of play can lead to injury. But he's held up so far. He's a much bigger, stronger guy than like a Mike Vick, it appears, which is good for his overall, fantasy and season long outlook for Baltimore. So this is a place really with like minus 200s on the board for the division. This is one of those spots where I think, and we'll get to the AFC West in a bit, but a team like the Chiefs is minus 420, well over minus 400. There's minus 500s on the board at places for the Chiefs to win the division. I don't think it's a similar, stranglehold. I'll give Pittsburgh a shot here with Roethlisberger, coming back into the mix, but minus 200 is too cheap for Baltimore. So this is a spot where the first bet that jumped out to me for the AFC North here was you either lay the 200 with Baltimore, or on books that let you parlay divisions, which I think is nice. This is one of a 2-team type of futures parlay, Baltimore to win this division if you want to get something closer to even odds. But I think that it's we're leading things off with a really square play here. But I think that when you look at different divisions and you see minus 200 for Baltimore, it's just cheaper than you would expect for a team that was that good.
I was a little surprised. Of course, against Tennessee, huge disappointment in the playoffs, but 14-2 is 14-2, and the team remains intact. I will say, I am not a Baker guy. I'm gonna lean over though for the Browns. There is over 8 available. This is a team, they've got weapons on weapons. Kareem Hunt, and Chubb and Odell. They bring in Hooper. They shored up the offensive line, which I think is actually incredibly
Yeah.
underrated with Conklin. They drafted a kid out of Alabama. There's no excuse. I'm not saying this is it for Baker, but this is a team that should be competing. I know the hype train has been seemingly there for years and years, but this is a spot I actually think they're kind of not getting the recognition. I don't want to say that they deserve, but that they could when you look at this team on paper. I mean, if you're asking, do I think they can be north of 500? The answer is absolutely. I really don't see anything in that's a major deterrent. It shaded a bit to over 8. I see minus 119 on my screen, but I would much rather go over 8 than, of course, under 8.5. If you can find that out there, I think the Browns are north of 500. I don't know if I can pull the trigger on where are they here? We got Browns plus 550 to win the division. If I had to pick anyone besides the Ravens, it would be the Browns, but I think I'm with you. Ultimately, I'm going to take the Ravens as the square play if I had to take a division winner here.
Yeah, and so for me, I agree with the majority of what you said, and I think that your most important point, is that offensive line, because it wasn't, Odell Beckham can make plays, Jarvis Landry can make plays, and I think the disappointment that we saw last season was, 3rd and 6 sack, and that's what's ending those drives. And like you said, that offensive line, if Mayfield can have more time to find those guys this year, I think that's what is going to make or break their season. When it comes to the outlook for me, like the Browns are just a pass for me, which
yeah, then that's
it's
fair.
not like we're gonna be betting on less than half of all the teams, obviously. So like it's not like every team is gonna be a play. So the Browns are just a stay away spot for me. I think that they underachieved last year. They have some pieces in place this year to get better, but I don't know exactly how much they're going to improve. So 8-8 sounds about right, and they could be 7-9, they could be 9-7, and it's just not a place that I see an edge. Nor do I really with a Pittsburgh, because I don't trust the health of those guys. They were all banged up last year, particularly Roethlisberger with his age. I just can't trust, which just kind of pushes everything even more and more towards Baltimore for me. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, any love, and feel free to finish that point, but we should talk a little, even though they're garbage, about the Bengals.
That's where I was going.
Go ahead, take it away then.
I mean, I don't have a ton of thoughts here. I'm not going to play an over 5 or an under 5.5 on the Bengals. They should be better. They don't have the worst defense, and they just got a franchise quarterback. Even though I know you're a little low on Joe Burrow, right?
I'm not over. Listen, he's got weapons. I think AJ Green is the
bounce
piece.
Back guy.
It's almost like a free agent signing if they can get him on the field for 10 plus games here. So
here's one thought, just to go to the awards futures. Like, this is going to be a super competitive comeback player of the year award type of season. Big Ben is in the mix. And I'm looking at DraftKings right now, is plus 300. Alex Smith comes back from the leg injury, is plus 300. Cam Newton goes to the Pats, is plus 400. A bunch of different guys scattered on the board. Gronk returns at plus 1,100. And then you have a guy like AJ Green at plus 2,000, who missed all of last season and now hooks up with Joe Burrow. If he has, a classic AJ Green season without the injuries and puts up the week-to-week numbers, I think that's a type of value future that you can look at for the Bengals. I like throwing more darts at rookie of the year and some of these other guys, but you can maybe protect yourself and hedge with a little bit of Joe Burrow for rookie of the year. Last year, it just wound up being like no real standout, so they just gave it to Kyler Murray, who was a similar, type of play, the number one pick quarterback in the 200, 250 range to win the award, and it went there. So like Joe Burrow is kind of a safe play if nobody else flashes and he just has a solid season. But again, I don't know if the odds are necessarily the best there, but just the AJ Green comeback player of the year thing that jumped out to me. And I guess just last thought on this division, I'm not high on the Steelers long term because of health. But because they had a bad year last year, they're kind of being overlooked in week 1. And when are the Steelers going to be fresh? In week 1. They're only 3.5 point favorites against the Giants, who are not very good, and a team that we'll talk about and I really don't like this year. I think that's a really short number that's going to get bet up. And I like, not to put in week 1 bets now, but I see one in this division. It's the Monday Night Football game, the early Monday Night Football game. I really like the Steelers -3.5 at the Giants.
Okay. Hey, listen, if you can get a line on something early, you can steal some points and steal some value. I echo your thoughts on the Bengals. I'm not as high on Burrow. We'll see. He's going to start. That's why he's safe. He should be out there immediately, unlike Tua, unlike Herbert, certainly not Jordan Love. Mixon, I think, is in for a big year. We're going to have a ton of season-long format and best ball. More of a DFS and fantasy guy than someone I'm really looking to get down wagers on in terms of like a rushing title or an MVP. That's very far-fetched, but
we don't need to talk about Joe Mixon MVP, do we?
Yeah, no, we don't.
Okay.
That's a different show for a different network because that's too obscene for us. But let's move to the South. I struggle with this division every year. It's just, I'm not going to say it's random teams. It's Titans, Texans, Jaguars, and Colts. A lot of moving parts. It seems like it's a worst to first type division. Then I thought that the Texans were going to start taking over. Well, you lose DeAndre Hopkins. It seems like they've taken
a step back. They gave away.
That's true. Intentionally lost, which makes it that much more disturbing. And just to look at the win totals quickly, we've got the Colts at 8.5, the Titans around 8.5 or 9, depending on where you look. The Texans right below them at 7.5, and then the Jaguars in the basement at 4.5 or 5. What do you see when you look at a somewhat wide open division?
Yeah, these ones are tough to bet. And like you said, it's not only is it like this every year, it seems like in this division, then there was some of the most movement we've ever seen in this division. Phillip Rivers, now the Colts quarterback, DeAndre Hopkins leaves the division. The Titans kind of make the in-season move last year to go to Tannehill and start riding Derrick Henry more, and now commit to that, game plan long term. I don't think there's any value on the Titans as the favorites, even though they really showed up in the playoffs last year. I think there was initially value on the Texans if you could get those like under 9s, under 8.5, but now it's at 7.5, so it's a stay away spot. The Colts are a little too heavily favored for me to win the division, so I don't think I can go there. Like, it's just everywhere you look, you have ideas, but it's not like anything necessarily jumps out to you. I think my favorite bet in this division, I think the Jaguars are going to be horrible. I think you can go under 5 and maybe you get the push at 5-11, but I think they're going to try and just maybe tank for Trevor Lawrence or whoever you want out of this next draft. It seems like a year for the Jags to just not care, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, normally, and not that this happens every year, but like they can't set it too high at the top and they can't set it too, like it's hard for a line to be like over under 2.5. And like more years than not, there's one team that is either decimated by injury or just non-competitive. The Jaguars seem like they just don't have the personnel right now. They're rebuilding. They need to get their Joe Burrow, which will be next year, and probably Trevor Lawrence. I will say, one, I'm not on the Colts. I'm really skeptical of what Rivers has left. I may look to short them. I could see, again, 8-8, 7-9. But what I think is kind of interesting here is when you look at the Titans specifically, you want to go over 8.5. It's shaded to -130. This division, I really do think you could see the winner at 9-7, or certainly even just 10-6. You're getting +170 on them to win the division. So if you think that the division winner is right in the range of their over-under, why not just take them to win the division? You're going to get much better odds. Obviously, you have to dodge another team, but I feel pretty comfortable that if the Titans go over their win total, they just win the division, and you're getting a much better price there.
Yeah, I don't mind that option there. Did I say the Titans were favored? Obviously, the Colts are favored. So
the Colts,
I
are +130.
Yeah.
Give me +170.
Right. So that makes sense. Unless the Colts and Titans are both somehow good and beating a lot of teams from out of the division, which seems unlikely that they'll both, have that much momentum. I can't make a decision on the Colts. Like, I don't trust Phillip Rivers, but I do trust that they, added on top of Marlon Mack, they added Jonathan Taylor to a really good running game. They have a solid defense. They're well coached. So it's like, I can't go either way on them. I guess at 8.5. I think this is I agree with you. Either, Jacksonville under stands out to me a little bit. And outside of that, I think that rather than a win total, you just bet a division winner for plus money. Even to take your same argument and say if you like the Colts and don't like the Texans, if you were going to
Oh,
bet over
absolutely.
8.5 for the Colts, then just bet plus 130 to win the division.
Yes, because if the Colts win 9, that's where you could get into a little trouble. If the Colts win 10, they're winning the division. I don't think there's any doubt in that. So give me that plus money. If you back a team in this, I guess what we're both kind of saying, if you like a team in this division in terms of an over, bet them to win the division
Yeah.
rather than the win total, because you're getting a much better price. And then the poor Jaguars, we'll have to wait and see. Unless you want to YOLO with 23-1 to win the division, but I don't think that that's the answer.
I don't think that one's happening.
No, I will say, and this has no bet attached to it because he's not going to win Rookie of the Year, but Laviska Shenault is going to be a big time player. If he can get a quarterback and he can stay healthy, that's a guy to watch. I know we're not talking about season long here, but I really like that spot. He just needs more weapons and a real guy under center.
He's a guy for me, just to give my thought really quickly. He's a guy for me that I think people are going to be a little too high on fantasy wise this year because they're so excited about him and he doesn't have that quarterback, and he shows flashes, underachieves a little bit, and then once that quarterback is there for him, finally breaks out.
Fair enough. It's really not the most interesting division for a lot of reasons. So let's keep it going. Now we go up. It's both of our neck of the woods, but you actually have a team, and I just am now a Bills fan, apparently. We got the Patriots in the East, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets. This is, it's the age-old question. You could have just blindly bet Patriots to win the East seemingly for decades now, and you would just have a nice return come every new year. This is the first year I can remember in a long time. We have the Bills, slight favorite. They're still a dog. They're plus 125, but they're plus 125. Pats plus 135, and then the Jets and the Dolphins almost 9-1 to win that division. This is your account. We've talked a little about Cam Newton and the gang. How do you approach a division like this?
Yeah, it's a new year in the AFC East. I spoke about, the Ravens being a parlay piece. In past years, the Pats are at least minus 350, 400, 500. Like, they were just a parlay piece for me with my other, division lock, and you put those two together and try and do something with it. So it's tough to bet the Patriots outright to win the division ever because of the odds. And this year we have the opportunity to do it. But the Bills are standing in the way. The Bills are not a bad team. Everybody has a really strong take, I feel like, on this division. And this works out nicely because we are both on opposite sides. You are strongly with the Bills, and I'm with the Patriots here. I'm going to keep riding it until the wheels fall off. Now, I'm also a guy that's, made good money betting the Patriots over the years. So I feel like I can, hey, if this is how it ends and I lose a little bit of money on them this year, it was a good run. I have that outlook on it, but I don't want it to also sound like I'm not confident, because I really do think that the Patriots are going to figure out this division, and that partially has to do with some Bills regression. I do have some bets on this division. This is This is the first division where we're talking about that I actually have some plays. I got New England for the division at plus 140 earlier, and then eventually found their win total at 8.5, and I think it opened like 9. There were 9.5s on the board at some point. So at the 8.5, I did go over there as well. And then I got a Buffalo under 9 at plus money. So the 9 and 7 would push there. They have to go 10 and 6 to lose me money. I felt pretty comfortable with that. But the actual on the field thoughts, I think that it was big, and I mentioned this on the Odd Shopper betting show that we do. I think that it was big of Bill Belichick to bring Cam Newton in, and it was kind of humbling because Belichick could have easily used the next man up approach and gone with Stidham, who's now got like an injured hip and out for a while. It doesn't look good. I don't know how he got that with no contact, being a 24-year-old, but not great. But yeah, I think that going to Cam Newton shows, okay, we do need some talent at this position, especially with all the opt-outs and missing pieces on the defense, which is, if you don't like the Patriots, that's the spot you point to, all those opt-outs like Hightower. But Belichick's a defensive coach. I think he'll figure out that side of the ball. I think Josh McDaniels is excited to use a new offensive piece like Cam Newton that he can drop some much different plays with. And it just goes, it's not fully talking up the Patriots. It just goes hand in hand with saying that the Bills, I think, will actually regress this year rather than take that next step that others think they're going to take. I don't believe in the quarterback. You believe in the quarterback. Now you can tell me why, because I'm starting to ramble on this division.
No respect. I mean, this is like, I've been adamant, this is the crossroads. There are certain teams you don't want to hone in on one year. To me, the Browns and the Bills are at a straight crossroads. Same draft, same guys. It's time. Like, you need to, I'm not saying that the Bills need to be the 1 seed in the AFC, but they have everything that you could ask for. And one thing that you didn't touch on, and I want to just pass it real back to you really quick. Do you worry about the Patriots defense with the string of guys that have opted out?
Yes.
Particularly Hightower.
Right. Yeah. So it's really just Hightower, maybe a little bit like Chung, and the trickle down effect of some of the other guys just means you have to bring new bodies in. I think for the most part, everybody's replaceable except for Hightower, which hurts an already kind of weakened linebacker core. But they seem confident. Belichick seems confident in the guys they bring in. Now, you're probably not going to say otherwise, and I expect there to be a little bit of a hit there. But I just trust the defense for the most part. Gilmore is, the reigning defensive player of the year. I think that in a pass-first NFL, having a lockdown guy like that is the first step to having an elite defense. And Buffalo has a really good defense too. Like, this is not going to be a cakewalk like it is every year for the Patriots. It's going to be a competitive division. I just happen to still lean with the Patriots by, a game or two here. But the opt-outs weren't good. And I think we got some adjustments, slight adjustments, at least to the odds when they happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'll speak, obviously I'm on the other side. I've already bet the Bills to win the division. I see it now, like I said, around still better than even money, around plus 125. They've got everything you want on defense. They've got everything you now want if Josh Allen is who he should be on offense with Diggs, Singletary. They've got weapons. It's a team that it's an easy natural progression. Does it mean it's going to happen? Obviously not. But there is no excuse for them. It's a 2-horse race for the division. Miami could be better. The Jets are the Jets. I don't see them really being ultra competitive. Let me ask you this, and I believe I know the answer, but I just want to ask it anyway. Do you see any conceivable way that the AFC East winner is not the Bills or the Patriots?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I don't think we need to say why. But like you said, Miami is going to see, exciting improvements potentially. I'm excited to see Tua on the field. You never want to bet a win total, I feel like, when you know that there's going to be a quarterback change and the other quarterback is unknown and is coming off an injury. Like, it just feels like a stay away spot. But Miami was much better down the stretch, obviously, and got that huge win as like 17-point dogs in New England, a game the Patriots needed.
Of course they did.
That arguably won the Chiefs the Super Bowl, handing that bye away in Week 17. The Jets have a really bad schedule, and
they do.
If Sam Darnold doesn't get mono this year, things could obviously be different. But it's a stay away spot for me. Again, I just can't trust anything there. And I'll make a point for you that I think you kind of left out of the Bills. Zach Moss at running back from Utah.
Another addition.
Your college football. That dude's a beast. Singletary can now be kind of a complimentary. That's kind of a smash and dash combo there that I like a lot. I think Moss can handle a pretty good workload in that offense. But it just comes down to Josh Allen being able to get the ball all the way down the field to Stephon Diggs and make those big plays that offense needs.
No doubt. I mean, that is what it comes down to. Sometimes it's not more complicated than that. So we will see. Stay away. Like I said, Jets, Dolphins, 6.5 passes for me on the board. But let's close out the AFC with this. Now we're going to get, I hope you got a seatbelt. Strap in. It's about to go down. AFC West, the champs themselves, the Chiefs, they sit with the highest win total, 11.5 out there. We've got the Broncos, the Chargers, the Vegas Raiders. They're all 7.5. What do you make of the win totals? And then, as you already mentioned, we have a minus 420 division winner for the Chiefs. If you don't think it's them, you're going to get major odds, upwards of 10-1, 11-1 for the Broncos in this division.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you parlay the Ravens and Chiefs to win a division, you're getting like minus 115, minus 120. I don't see any way the Chiefs don't win this division. The only way the Chiefs don't win this division is if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt. You think otherwise for some reason.
That's a good way to put it. For some reason,
we'll get to that. The only way the Chiefs don't win this division is if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt. So I will use that piece and bank on that not happening to add the appropriate juice to my belief in the Ravens and make this, a more standard minus 115, minus 120 bet. These are the only two division pieces that I'm parlaying. Nothing in the NFC, nothing else obviously in the AFC with a couple of close divisions. So these are the only two pieces on the board. And you also have to believe in the Chiefs like me and not be somebody like Ben. So in terms of the win totals, I know that you have a lot of thoughts, I think, on Denver and and the Chargers, right?
I got thoughts on the Chargers, but I don't.
So okay. So let me just go. I'll do one thing quick, and I don't know if you have thoughts on the other team that we haven't talked about, the Vegas Raiders. I do think that the Chargers and Broncos are solid teams. I don't think that your prediction that you're about to say, I feel like you're going to have the Broncos to win the division, probably isn't going to happen. But the Broncos are going to be a very good football team. The Raiders, this is, going back to like when no sports were around. So I took them under 7.5 wins at minus 110. I do not see them being 500, but they won 7 games last year. So I just think that the rest of the division being as good as it should be, the Chargers not being 5-11 probably again, and a tougher out of conference schedule, I just see no way. And we already have like Tyrell Williams is playing through a shoulder tear, a torn labrum, and he's going to try and play through it. That doesn't look like it's going to go well. I don't believe in Derek Carr. Nope. This is an under for me. I much prefer getting that 7.5, which I don't know if there are any on the board, but even at the 7, worst you do is push again at the 7 and 9. The Raiders will not be a 500 team this year, and I'm pretty confident in that. That's one of 2 of my bigger NFL bets so far.
AFC West to me is, and it's not because of the Raiders, it's despite them, is an underrated division in terms of strength. You have the Chiefs, who are unbelievable. The Chargers have extreme talent. They just, Rivers I don't think was great, and they were not healthy. Like, if they get guys like Derwin James back in business, that defense is good. They've got more than enough weapons. Even with the loss of Gordon, I don't mind, like Eckler, and then we'll be fine in the backfield. They've got receivers. Tyrod Taylor, he's serviceable at minimum.
Right.
Herbert is not going to see the field immediately, and I wouldn't be stunned if it's delayed even further. I don't have a position for the concept that I thought you just brought up, which is really sharp. It's tough to take a win total when you don't know who's playing in weeks like 12 through 17. Like, I just don't know what the team is. But
that's what scares me about the Chargers.
It's
if they committed to Tyrod Taylor for 16 games and said we'll go to Herbert next year, like the Bengals did way back in the day with like Carson Palmer and John Kitna, like
done.
If they said that, the Chargers would probably be a 500 or better team, and you take that over 7.5. Tyrod Taylor's just as good as Phillip Rivers, and you get everybody are better, and you get all those pieces back around them. This was a 12-4 team the year before, so they'll be closer to that than they were last year, I think.
My biggest win total bet of the entire season is the Denver Broncos. Okay. Over 7.5, minus 110 is where it's currently listed. I'm a Drew Lock believer. I am a huge believer in what they did in the draft. They brought in Judy. They brought in Hamler. They drafted Drew Lock's former tight end in Albert O. They paired him with Fant. They've got Melvin Gordon. They've got Lindsey. The defense is good. They added a couple corners in addition. Can they beat the Chiefs? That's a big ask, obviously. You are getting 11-1.
I didn't know if you were going to go 1,100 here. I was waiting for you to just
I have a small position on the
Okay.
Broncos to win the West. Clearly overmatched. And if the Chiefs avoid major injuries and do what they should, it's going to be a really lofty task. But this Denver team found something. I know Drew Lock, it's a small sample size. I really think that they have the pieces to be a good team, and I expect them to compete for the playoffs, even if they don't win the division. With the extra team, this is a 9-7, 10-6 type team, and I over 7.5 to me was, it's never easy, but this is a position that I feel very comfortable with.
Okay, so I don't mind the win total one at all. I haven't played it yet. By the time NFL kicks off, I know we've
I'm
talked about
already
this so
in.
much that maybe you're going to talk me into jumping on the Broncos. It's obviously, when you look at it, like I really don't see the Chiefs not winning this division, so I'm not going to take any long shots across the board. But when you look at like Denver plus 1100 or Vegas plus 1200, the fact that they're thought of
That's what I'm
as close
saying.
to even is a joke. Like you said, if the Broncos went 10-6, I would not bat an eye, and if Oakland, if Vegas went 4-12, I would not bat an eye. And now they're 6 games apart and being offered almost at the same odds to win the division. So like that's ridiculous, and I guess that speaks to both sides of two plays that we like. Vegas being
Yeah, I'm with you.
overrated and Denver being underrated. So I guess that kind of works in our favor to strengthen both of our plays there that we like a lot. And if I made a
Cortland
play on the
Sutton.
Broncos, it would be a win total over for sure.
Cortland Sutton. Big year. Huge year.
So I've heard great things of him when you see, the camp tweets start going by. Cortland Sutton just dominating. And also a guy that I did very well with the NFL draft. I think because I just had ample time to research it this year. I made like 25 bets this year compared to 4 bets the year before because we're not in the middle of the NBA playoffs.
Yep.
But one of the places I did lose money, one of my bigger bets was Jerry Jeudy to be the first receiver off the
As
board
did
because he's
I.
a beast, and he just falls to Denver
Raiders, those
there
idiots.
in such a great spot. So that like Jeudy and Sutton opposite, Hamler in the slot there, like with a young Drew Lock, you said give him someone comfortable, that tight end. Things should click there.
They should. Yeah. Henry Ruggs. No
Oh,
disrespect, but no. Like believe me, I've seen a lot of Alabama football.
there's another, and that just points another
Yeah, the
reason.
Raiders.
The Raiders under with a pick like that. He's already hurt. How's Carr going to get him the ball? He just runs a million miles down the field straight. Like, come on.
No, bad pairing. But this is the division to really keep your eye on. This is the spot too, early in the season. And of course, me and Julian are going to have so much breakdowns. I'm going to have positions on a lot of games I anticipate with the Broncos early in the year, just with spreads. I believe they start fast and they start strong. So this is fun, man. We're going to have a lot of shows like this. There's so much to get into. But I do want to say as we wrap up the AFC, it goes without saying, if you're not part of the community, awesemo.com/join, we've got packages weekly, monthly, annual, every sport, every combination you could imagine. And that's just the DFS side. There is now season-long packages with Alex's new tools. Go check that out. And then, of course, a ton of work being done over at Awesemo Odds with Odd Shopper leading the way. So look forward to more of these type of videos. We will be back with another breakdown, the NFC win totals, division previews, and we will see you there.